My name is Dr. Shuja Ahmed. I am working as a professor and director, Pakistan Study Center, University of Sindh, Jamshoro. One of my research interests is to study and investigate about the history of Sindh and especially the indigenous movements. So I will briefly talk about the Hurs movement, which is popularly known and it is the most important and significant event in the history of Sindh. When we look at the history of Sindh, especially when it starts from the 1843, Charles Napier conquered Sindh. So what was the purpose and why he conquered Sindh? One explanation is that the Allen Borough, the Governor General, he was the driving force behind the conquest of Sindh. And Charles Napier, because he belonged to the military and he wanted to have some achievements, so especially his personal motive was to conquer Sindh. So that was the one reason. Other reason was commercial and economic interests of British. That's the reason why the British tried to connect with Sindh. And when they conquered Sindh, the Charles Napier, because he was more expert in the military affairs, so he did not, help and develop Sindh. He did not develop Sindh's agriculture, and he did not bring some change in Sindh. And actually, at that time, Sindh needs change, but he did not make any change. Bartle Frere came later, and he brought a lot of changes in Sindh, and because he was very much anxious for development in Sindh, he developed the communication system, telegraph system, and he also made the Sindhi as official language and court language. So he brought a lot of change in Sindh, and he was a friend of Sindh. So there was some positives and some negative about the British. Some officers like Bartle Frere, he was a friend of Sindh and he brought a lot of changes in Sindh. But the many British, because the British policy was to exploit the resources of British India. And also we see that during the British time, the British policy was that to ignore the local people, local indigenous people, indigenous wisdom. So they did not much care about the sentiments and feelings of people, and this also caused the alienation among the subjects and the people who were being ruled by British. So because they did not care about their feelings, and this was the reason why the War of Independence took place. So actually, due to this attitude of British in the British India, because Sindh was also part of that, so in all the British India, people were not happy with the British, because all the time the British just made the pledges, but they did not keep the pledges. Like in the First World War, we see that they made a lot of pledges, and both communities like Hindu and Muslims, they made many sacrifices, and millions of the people were killed in the First World War. But British did not keep the pledge, and the Khilafat institution could not be saved. That was a demand of Muslims, and Hindus also began to agitate against the British, because British promised that they will do something for the self-rule, but they didn't anything. So in order to, when the war was over, after the war, British tried to control the revolutionaries, because in the Bengal, in some parts of Punjab, some revolutionaries, they began to rise against the British. So now, in order to control them, the British passed a law, which is Blackist law, which is called the Blake Law in the history, because this Rowlatt Act was passed, and this act was actually passed to punish the people and punish the revolutionaries and control them. And this act the purpose was to control them, and without the warrant, without the evidence, justification, people could be arrested. So people have no right to assemble, no right to protest against the British power. So this was actually a tool. This act was used as a tool to control the revolutionaries and the people who were tried to be they tried to be opposing the British policy and rule. So this act was fully utilized by the British, and we see the consequence of this act was that there was the great tragedy of the Amritsar massacre, where innocent people were killed by General Dyer, and Hunter Committee, which was established by the British, and this committee just recommended the removal of the Dyer, but he did not get any punishment for his act. So these acts and these issues, and these policies and this kind of attitude actually made the people of India angry. And in the part of Sindh, there was a great movement which was started, and this movement is started by Pir Pagaro, and he started this movement to go against the exploitation by the British, exploitation of people of Sindh as well. Like resources of Sindh were exploited, people were exploited. So he revolutionized and he led this movement, and this movement was the mass movement. And this actually, there was a great transformation of this initially, because it was a resistance movement, but it was revolutionized, it was transformed into a mass movement, and that's the reason why it was more popular in the Sindh, across the Sindh, because people from all the corners, they supported wholeheartedly to this movement, because the objective of the movement was very important. The goal of this movement was to protect Sindh, to protect the interests of Sindh, protect the people of Sindh, culture of Sindh, the values of Sindh. So that's why it was more closer to the hearts of people. So all people were, supporting this movement, and British took many actions. They tried to, control the Hurs, but they did not control, and they arrested them. They created the concentration camps in order to, compel them, in order to control them, but they did not control, because Hurs, they promised that they have started the movement, they have started to fight against the British for the noble cause, which is the protection of the rights of Sindh. And this is the moment we should also think about the idea which actually was developed, that the Sindhis, especially the people of Sindh, they are not martial race. And many historians, they justified and they argued that because in the past the Sindh has not been a source of army building, so Sindhis are not martial race. They couldn't fight. But the history reject this label, and we can see that there is a lot of evidences. Just I quote the one evidence of this movement, the whole movement. This movement actually established the fact and proved that Sindhis have possessed the martial spirit. They can fight for the cause of Sindh, and they proved when they fought against the British and they attacked the different installations of British, different offices and buildings of British. So British realized that these Sindhis and the people of Sindh, they can also respond, and because this was the cruel actions of British, they were responded by Hurs, and that's why the Hurs actions were more popular, and they were accepted by the people, local people, and they were supported by the local people. So I believe that this episode of history, this very important event in history, and the movement, actually the major contribution of this movement was that it not only created the political awareness, but I would say the political consciousness, which actually that was a need of the time, because people had some information about the political issues and political views, but they were not politically conscious. So thanks to this resistance movement, which actually created the great political consciousness, and this it has the impact on the political history, in the sense that after the whole movement, which was after the 1930s, we see that post the 1930s, we also see that there was a lot of political consciousness among the people of Sindh. So this was the great contribution of whole movement. Hurs, they protected the Sindh's interests, and it became more popular and accepted by the people of Sindh. Thank you so much.